Started today a little late in the day with my workout. I think it was around like 7:30 or so when I kicked things off. But sometimes that's just kind of how things go. I had some things going on during the day, and then couldn't quite work out right away when I wanted to in the afternoon, so I just had to put it off. Then I got hungry and had to eat, and it's just kind of one thing cascades into another. But sometimes conditions like that end up working out in your favor, giving you a little more time to prepare yourself for what you have to do. And with regards to that, today went through and had a new PR in terms of reps and sets for squats, doing 295 on a 5x5. Hopefully the first of 4 PRs coming up in the coming week. But this one felt pretty good. One thing that was really kind of interesting is that after my session on Thursday, so I have a little callus in the middle of my neck. And after Thursday, that callus, which is from the center knurling on the bar, just kind of rolling a little bit and rubbing on the skin, that callus just was rough. There was a point on Friday where it got really itchy, and I just kind of rubbed it and pulled the entire callus off of my neck. And I could feel it kind of being a little rough at the end of the day on Thursday after I'd finished taking my shower after the workout and all that. And I figured, this is kind of calm down. But today there's no issue there. So what I focused on in part alongside everything else is just kind of holding the bar more tightly and steady, so that way it wasn't rolling around as much. And if that ended up working, what I was going to do was just put chalk on my my upper back, so that way the bar would have better grip and wouldn't roll as much. Because I think that's what's causing the majority of that to happen whenever I'm squatting. And it's not anything that's painful or anything. It doesn't hurt. It can cause some discomfort when I'm squatting because whenever that peels off, I have raw skin underneath it that isn't as abrased as the rest of my neck. So that can kind of cause a little bit of difficulty, but barring that, I really didn't have too many issues today. Things did get a little tiring towards the end of this session or at the end of the squat sets, but that's kind of to be expected with the amount of load that I'm taking on, being almost 1,500 pounds per set, which is fairly heavy for me for squats. I mean, it's the heaviest I've ever done, so of course it'd be heavy for me. Coming into this set right here, I was getting a little bit tired in it, and so you'll see a little bit of compromising in the form on I believe the last rep. Actually, it wasn't that bad. Well, it was the 4th rep. Actually kept track this time. Yeah, it's a little bit. There's a little bit of transition, I believe, on that one. I felt like I rocked into my toes just a hair when I was coming up, so I wasn't too thrilled about that. And so I took a little bit longer going into the 5th set and just kind of focused on catching my breath and regaining all of my energy so I could do them properly. And really focus on making sure that I got down deep enough. I was utilizing my hips and my hamstrings to get the weight up. And at least looking at it right now, I am kind of confirming how I felt. There was a little bit of compromising in the form, so you can see a little bit of rounding in the lower back. That's I could feel it when I was done, especially right there. That one was pretty indicative of it. I think I really felt it on my 5th rep, where I was kind of debating, do I go through and do it? And I thought, you know what, I'll go for it. And yeah, there's a little bit of rounding there. So I almost good morning that weight up as I was bringing my legs up too. So I did definitely feel some strain in my core when I was done. So I do definitely still need to continue strengthening the core to better accommodate these weights whenever I'm squatting, just because otherwise you're going to see me in that position to where I'm bending over more than I should be. And it was really interesting too, because the amount of work that I did just kind of really blasted my quads. And I think I figured out what was causing that sensation last week with my deficit deadlifts. And it's that when I was sitting in that position warming up, because the weights, 135 and 225 are so light for me, my initial position when I was setting up and getting ready to pull was very quad dominant. And so I kind of felt that a little bit in the first set of the deficit deadlifts, and you'll see me in this one, I believe, set up, and I can feel that little twinge, and then I rock back further onto my hamstrings so I don't have to rely on my quads to pull, or to get set up, rather, instead of pulling. But from here, I just kind of focus on the same things I normally have been with these, where once I hit my hips and lock in, then I'm able to activate my hips and my my legs and just pull that weight up and have it be nice and consistent throughout. And again, avoiding that sort of sequential motion that loads the hips, back, and legs separately, because you're starting with your legs, trying to adjust with your back, and then trying to force into your hips from there. Whereas from here, you kind of build tension in the legs doing this, lock in with your legs and hips at the same time and lock in, and then you just get that weight up. And so it's utilizing all of those muscle groups at the same time rather than trying to do them one after the other in such a way that kind of creates a deficiency in the movement. So definitely still in the process of learning here. And I think I might take a break from doing deadlifts. I think it's been 2.5 or almost 3 months of doing these now weekly. And I think I'll try going back to either doing some sumo deadlifts or just going to some conventional deadlifts and just start pulling those. See how it feels after taking them off for a few months and working them out for reps. Not sure what weight I'll start at. I might just start right at 275, with just the conventional deadlifts and just go from there. But these are feeling really nice. I mean, my grip's really strong, so there's no worry about anything like slipping out at all. So it's not like this is any sort of difficult way for me to get up off the floor to begin with. It's moving very nicely. One thing that I was noticing too, that just starting my back was really lit up just because the compromised positions in the last couple sets of the squats. But doing these really helped kind of stretch my back out, and I feel fine now. My back isn't strained at all. So it's at least nice to do these one right after the other, just because you have the contrasting motions of the push with the squat and then the pull with the deadlift, to be able to move that weight in two different ways, two different focuses on the muscle groups, and be able to effectively sort of release any sort of strain that's coming as a result of that. And I'm very happy with these. It's a very nice movement. It's one of those where I always just kind of like, oh my God, dread it just a little bit going into it. But then once I do it, I'm like, oh, okay, it's fine. These, I wasn't going to originally do them for 4 sets of 12. I had not done them in quite some time, but I remember them being one that really kind of blasted my shoulders and my traps. So I started at 35 pounds and did the first set of 12. And let me tell you, a little tiring, which, it's a little bit different than just doing a conventional overhead press, because with the overhead press, you have your weight locked in one place. You're not rotating your shoulders, and you're able to stabilize using both arms. Whereas here, you have to stabilize each arm individually and try to avoid hitting the weights together as you're going up, because that can create a conflict in terms of the motion. And it is a little bit more difficult. So I came to the second set and I'm like, all right, I'm going to try to do set of 12 again, get through it, no problem. And man, did I struggle into this and end up having to stop at 10. So there was an old conventional set of sets I was doing whenever I was doing my initial bodybuilding workout when I first started, where it was a set of 12, 10, and then 2 sets of 8. And that's what I ended up doing here, just so that way I could get used to doing this movement again. And it was, the strain right there in my face, be able to get through these, just be able to get through them and get some sort of utility out of it. I may next week, whenever I do these again, or whenever I do them again, try doing 4 sets of 12, maybe lower the weight down just a little bit to kind of get an appropriate load for that, maybe 32.5 or 30 pounds, which I think either one of those are probably doable. I felt like I was kind of on the brink with these, to where it was just enough load to where it slowed me down enough to where I needed to kind of stop. They look pretty all right. I could probably stand to keep them more in front of me, because I know the Arnold Press is more that in front position, but I kind of run into the difficulty with the size of these dumbbells that I do have to kind of move my arms out a little bit to avoid hitting them together. And I don't know if that's going to compromise the position of these, but I still felt like I got a really good workout on my delts and my traps as a result of this. My traps especially kind of had a pretty good pump at the end. And surprisingly, my chest had a good pump too. So that was a nice little side effect with how things ended up. After I finished this last set of doing the Arnold presses, I was trying to think of something else I could do to target my shoulders and my specifically try to hit my triceps a little bit too. I ended up doing face pulls, and that was another one where I kind of struggled finding the weight that I need to use to work at appropriately. I started at 35, and the weight just kind of whipped up real quick, so definitely a little light there, and I needed to adjust things to better accommodate the load, just because that was not the right amount of work for me to do. You know, it's very light. So I did these as 4 sets of 12. This is much easier to accommodate just because I was in the process of trying to find the weight with these. I didn't want to jump up too high right away just because it's one of those movements to where, you know, it kind of moves at semi-workable weights and moves just fine. And then once you start kind of pushing, it just stops dead. And it's hard to tell exactly where that point that you're going to stop is at. So you kind of have to feather your way up to it until you kind of really get close. 45, you know, a little heavier, but still very doable. This wasn't like a very like heavy weight for me. So I kind of thought, all right, let me finish doing the 45 and then I'm going to move up to 55. So finished that, moved my weight up, went over to 55 pounds. And again, this you know, in retrospect is probably going to be the weight that's ideal to do for these for now, just because I had the most amount of work with adequate success, where I wasn't having to stop and you know, start in the middle of sets and use any sort of body English to finish it. So I think that's going to be the ideal weight. I tried 60 pounds, and while it was definitely doable, I don't think it's something that I can maintain for multiple sets. So in this context where I'm working up a little bit in terms of weight each set while going down in reps to kind of maintain a similar workload, I don't think it's feasible over the course of the entire all 4 sets like this. So that's something to kind of play around with if I decide to do these again. Again, kind of similar to the underhand flies. This would benefit from having a cable that's right in front of my face or right below a little bit instead of having it in position to send. But, you know, I just kind of work with what I've got. Beyond that, just get ready to do my final loading week next week. And push to the finish. It's going to be pretty heavy at 300, 305, and 310 coming up in squats. And then a big 350 on trap bar deadlifts on Thursday. So seems intimidating now, but it seems like it should be pretty doable. Things are moving along really well, and I think that I'll have good success with that.